In this video, I'm going to talk about how we can fix state borders because I feel like in a lot of places, they're just really awkward. First of all, the Dakotas should not be two states. It should be one. And the only reason why they're two states is actually because of the Republicans. So, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, in 1888, we had elections, obviously, because there's elections every 4 years. And looking at the 1880 elections, we can see that Republicans gained a presidency and a House, and they held the Senate. And they wanted more political power, so what they figured to do was make the Dakotas into two states. And, by making the Dakotas into two states, we saw Republicans increase their political power in the region. And that was their goal. And they still seem to be successful to this day, given how the Dakotas usually vote for the Democrats. Now, I think it's actually ironic that the 1892 elections we saw Democrats and populists make gains in North Dakota. But again, it was really only made for political reasons, and I think that the Dakotas should be returned as one state called Dakota. Now, obviously, West Virginia separated from Virginia for a very valid reason, to stay in the Union during the Civil War, and the Carolinas was to prevent tribal war, which I also think is a valid reason, so we'll leave those intact. But here's what bothers me. Texas was forced to give up. It used to have a lot more land going all the way up to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and it was forced to retract down to its current borders to keep slaves. Per the Compromise of 1850, you cannot have slavery north of this line, except for Missouri. I know that was a Missouri Compromise. I don't know which one it was. And the thing is that now slavery is banned. So this area, this part of the Oklahoma Panhandle should really be belong back to Texas. Not that there's a whole lot of stuff up here because it's mostly very rural areas, but you do have Guayman. And this would give Texas direct borders to Kansas and Colorado while cutting Oklahoma off from Colorado. Many say the Oklahoma Panhandle is iconic, but in that case, why not just extend it out either to Nevada or at the very least to Arizona? Why have it awkwardly cut off, not even where Texas ends, but a couple miles to the east? Because look at the northwestern corner of Texas. Look at where the Tri-State Monument is. They're not exactly in the same place. There is like this annoying area up here. And I find that annoying. Also, I find this part like so weird. Like you could have had this whole area, really everything east of I-25 being Texas, like what it originally was. But you don't, even though it's south of the line. And yet, this area continues to be in Texas. Like, why not just make it a part of New Mexico at that point and make the border, cleaner? Like, why not extend the New Mexico border out to this corner, sort of where Kermit, and make sort of where Kermit is the boundary? First of all, I think it would be cool if I-20 extended into New Mexico. Second of all, Odessa and Midland should really be the western extent of Texas, and El Paso feels more like New Mexico anyway. And a lot of the areas down here, like Big Bend National Park, don't really feel like Texas. They feel like you're in New Mexico at that point. So I feel like that should be a thing too. That should be a thing too. I also don't like the fact that the Oregon-Washington border follows the Columbia River for so long, and then all of a sudden around Port Kelly it just stops and becomes what parallel even is this? And the border all of a sudden becomes the 46th parallel. Like, that's awkward and arbitrary. It's like you follow the river for so long, and all of a sudden you get to the eastern part of the state, and then you just like stop. And I just don't get it or like it. Now, to be fair, the Columbia River does flow pretty, far to the north at this point. If you actually look at the track of the Columbia River, you would see where the river goes, and the fact that, again, you really probably can't have all this area being in Oregon, but you could have it at least go to the Snake River to the Idaho border and make it the Columbia until it hits the Snake, because obviously the Columbia River does extend all the way into Canada, seeing as it goes all the way into British Columbia, but still. I just feel like that's really arbitrary. Is this me, or do I hate that Utah has this area? Though, to be fair, it'll be an annoying chunk of Wyoming either way, so not that much you can do about that one. Even though I hate it, there's really nothing you can fix about that one. Again, Nebraska's border is awkward, but you can't really fix it without making Colorado's border awkward. Missouri, why does this thing exist? Really, it's just really this area from here to the Mississippi should just all be a part of Arkansas, all of it. Like, seriously, all of it. Why is it even part of Missouri? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's literally just taking land out of Arkansas. Kentucky Bend needs to be fixed too, but we'll get that later. I feel like all of Florida to the west, that's in Central Time, so like west of Appalachia, should just be in Alabama, because they probably more culturally associate Alabama anyway. Why not just continue to make the Mississippi River the border between Louisiana and Mississippi? I know that New Orleans technically would be in Mississippi at that point, but like, come on. Like, seriously, come on. Other borders I find stupid. Pennsylvania does not need this. Like, just give it to New York. Have Pennsylvania have a straight border over here. I get that technically it would pretty much cut it out of Lake Erie access, but doesn't really even need it, Lake Erie access anyway. I mean, Pennsylvania would still be a landlocked state either way, IMO, because in order to get out of the Great Lakes, it needs to go through Canada anyway. Long Island should really be a part of New Jersey, I think. Having it in New York makes no sense. And I feel like Maine and Massachusetts should touch. I get why historically you need to have Portsmouth in New Hampshire, but I feel like just let Maine and Massachusetts touch. Does New Hampshire even really need their coastline?